Day, the first time I saw you, I knew
broadcasting from the First National Bank Tower. This is KLEKLP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Good Friday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Mostly sunny skies developing today. That area of low pressure heading out to the east of us. Temperatures will be in the 30s to near 40 today. Mostly clear tonight, about 25 for the low. Mostly sunny Saturday, the high near 50. Chance of showers Sunday, mostly cloudy skies around 50 or so. Jonesboro's community radio station, we're KLEK 102.5 FM.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Holly Hudson. South Korea has stepped up measures to contain the spread of the coronavirus after infections rose sharply for a second day. Tens of thousands of people attended vigils for the 9 victims of a far-right extremist who opened fire on 2 shisha bars in Hanau, Germany. And according to US reports, House lawmakers were briefed by top intelligence officials last week on the Kremlin's role in helping re-elect Donald Trump.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you on your Friday. It's February 21st, 2020. Said that 5 times fast. This is Community Conversations. Kayla Winter is in the studio with you. I'm joined by Kabila Jones, host of Community Conversations. We are also joined by Yesenia Hernandez Lovo. She is with the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution, which is something that is being presented to the Jonesboro City Council in an effort to preserve equality for LGBTQ protections and hiring practices for the city of Jonesboro. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So Yesenia, how you doing today?
I am nervous as always.
Well, you've been on here before. Like I always say, it's a conversation between 3 people, and a whole bunch of people are eavesdropping. But you also have to remember, when you come on to this or any other media program, radio, television, online, we're talking about something that you are the expert in. This is something that you feel strongly about, something that you feel passionate about, and who knows more about this than you? That sounds like it's another speech. So, all right, so we'll start off easy. So we'll start off with the softball, with the kitty question. Let's talk about the bear. Let's talk about the bear.
Okay.
So if you're watching our Facebook live feed, there is a nice, pretty rainbow teddy bear actually right between Yesenia and Quabila. So let's talk about the bear a little bit then. Kind of help ease you into it.
So the bear's name is Nirvana. Last year, while we were getting collecting items for the silent auction for NEA.
Pull the mic closer to you.
Oh, just kidding. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
See, I act like this is the first time I've been here.
Well, trust me. You see, there are people who come here all the time. We just have to remind them.
So the bear's name is Nirvana. She was donated by Build-A-Bear in the mall last year for 2019's Pride Fest that we hosted downtown in October. And Nirvana had basically become my emotional support bear through all of Pride. And so when I had to give her up, I was obviously devastated when I put her up for the silent auction. But a lot of the board members and friends, people pitched in and they bought it for me for during Pride Fest. So I got to keep her now. So she goes to anything that's related to NEA Pride with me.
Okay, and we may hear from her a little later on in the program. Now, do you not feel so nervous now?
Oh no!
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the meat. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the matter. So, for those who may not know, just let them know what the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution is and the history behind it.
So the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution is a resolution where we will add sexual orientation, gender identity, and veteran status under a protected classification for anti-discrimination for the employment handbook. This resolution was brought up in 2015 by a coalition of students at Arkansas State University. It was never added to the agenda. We got a motion we got a motion, but never a second. Back in 2015, I believe Ann Williams, the council person, was the one that made that motion, but it didn't go very far. One of the positives that did happen from this resolution being introduced in 2015, though, is that Arkansas State University, our city's biggest employer, went ahead and adopted that resolution into their handbook because they saw the significance of having this as a protected class for their employment practices.
Okay, and since Arkansas State has done that, has there been any backlash on their end? Because, as you know, there are some detractors. I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit for adopting this for the city of Jonesboro.
Mm-hmm. As far as I'm aware, there haven't been any sort of anything against it. But, I mean, I may just be ignorant about that and not been told about it or not haven't heard about it. Okay,
so let's talk about, you talked about the beginning. Most recently, yourself and some others attended the most recent Jonesboro City Council meeting to discuss this resolution. So let's talk about how did that go and what was the experience like and what did you take away from that?
So we had about around 30 people that showed up to the City Council meeting. We just wanted to let them know about our disapproval of not being added to the agenda. On Wednesday of last week, Ryan Carter and I went to the city clerk's office and we asked the office whether or not we were doing everything correctly to turn in that resolution, and we were informed that we were doing everything right. So it came to a shock whenever we were told that we had gone about it the wrong way during the city council meeting. But Pastor Elijah Walker was the one that was representing us, and they did an impassioned small speech, and we just it was really nice to hear representation at one of our city council meetings, and also seeing everybody stand up to show that we support this resolution.
So just looking across at the faces of those on the city council, did it seem like that they were at least receptive to what you have to say? Or did it look like the wheels were just kind of turning in their heads?
There were a few of them. Ryan Carter sent out emails this past week. There are basically three ways that we can do that, or that we can get this resolution on the agenda, or at least that's what we were informed. So our next step is going to be to get a council person or two to support it, to sponsor this resolution.
Okay, and of course we got to get into the resistance, because obviously whenever there are LGBTQ issues being brought forth, there is always going to be resistance. And the first thing that, at least what I've seen from social media is, and I want you to respond to this, is the criticism of why is this needed? They said there's laws on the federal level for this, so why do we need this here in Jonesboro?
So I really love it when people tell me that I have rights that I don't have, because I don't have them, and I mean, I didn't know the extent of how complicated this issue was up until I really started looking into it a few months ago. So I don't know if you've heard of the Human Rights Campaign, HRC. They do a municipal equality index every year, apparently, and they rated 506 cities throughout the United States. Out of those 506, 8 of them were from Arkansas, so the scale goes from 0 to 100. So it basically shows how many policies or laws are enacted to where there are protections for the LGBTQ community. Out of those 8 cities, 2 of them are rated above average, Eureka Springs and Little Rock. Other cities had different scores, but Jonesboro was the only city in the state of Arkansas to receive a total score of 0.
Now, what were some of the metrics that were used to come up with these scores for these cities?
So they have an entire scorecard, and it has like five different levels that have non-discrimination laws, employment, housing, whether or not we have a liaison in the police task force. Like, these things that I've never even considered would be a thing that other cities may have. We can't even imagine them because the LGBT community has such little representation, actually no representation, in Jonesboro, Arkansas. So that's whenever I found out that we had absolutely no protections set aside for our city.
All right, so you were getting back to what you were saying, that Jonesboro actually had a 0. I think you said it was the only city in Arkansas that actually had that rating.
The only city in Arkansas, actually Marvell, Arkansas, which has a
which has a population,
my neck of the
woods, West Helena,
which they have a population of less than 2,000, and they were able to pass this resolution. So to include sexual orientation. So the fact that other towns that we wouldn't consider as progressive as Jonesboro are able to pass this kind of policy is disappointing, to be honest with you. And out of those, we were one of 8 cities in Arkansas. We were only one of 14 in the entire nation that got such an abysmal score.
Oh, wow. So one of the other criticisms that I've observed is the fact that veterans are included. There are some people who feel like this was just a play to get sympathy because, who's going to come out against veterans? So what's your response to that when people say, oh, they're just adding veterans to it so that they can push their agenda down our throats?
Yeah, and I figured a lot of people would believe that. What I did is that I went through the employment handbooks of a bunch of cities in Arkansas, just to ensure that this was a resolution that has been passed, and I looked through the news. But with veteran status, I noticed that in our Craighead County employment handbook, we made a point to include veteran status and those employment practices as a protected classification, but we hadn't done it yet in the city of Jonesboro. So that is why, to make more consistent employment protected classifications, I just wanted to go ahead and add veteran status because our handbook hasn't been updated for the city.
Were there any other protected classes that you observed that were also left out?
Interestingly enough, gender was included in our employment handbook for the Craighead County, but not sex. And what a lot of people don't understand is that there is a difference between sex and gender.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What is the difference between gender and sex?
So sex is more of a biological level, and gender is more of, like, I'm trying to think of a way to describe it right now, but gender is how you present yourself, societal, gender is a social construct. So we have man and woman, and there's this whole spectrum in between. And when it comes to biological sex, there are a lot of different things that go into that, which to be completely honest with you, I want to invite an expert, a sex biology expert, to talk at NEA Pride sometime, because I thought it was about body parts, but it's actually a lot more complicated than that. It goes down to your biological your genes. So someone can appear to look what we typically think of a man or woman, female or male, but genetically their chromosomes might be completely different.
Now, that much I am aware of. Also having studied sociology, so we had to dig a little deeper into that. And of course, this is not a science class, so we won't get too deep into that, but I do understand that aspect of it. I do want to ask this, as you were doing the research, I know that this resolution came about, you said, about in 2015.
The first time. Mm-hmm.
And so, one, why did it become stagnant or hit, maybe because of what's happening now, but why did it become stagnant and, I guess, kind of, go underground? And then what spurred you to say, okay, or whoever the group of people are, to say, let's bring this issue back up? Did something happen to get your attention, say, okay, we need to put some protection measures in place?
Well, whenever that Municipal Equality Index, whenever those rankings came out, mm-hmm. There were people that were worried. I mean, we already knew that our protections were a lot less in Jonesboro. We just didn't know how terribly they were compared to other cities. Back in 2015, that's when the Marriage Equality Act passed. Okay. And so a lot of cities were trying to create protections for a lot of their citizens. A lot of people use that what we're trying to do is illegal because Fayetteville's ordinance got overturned in 2019 of last year. But what they don't understand is that ordinance didn't just include city workers, it included the entire city. So they were trying to protect everyone, which is against the law according to 141403, which was passed in 2015, mm-hmm. which doesn't allow for us to create protected classes for the whole city, but that rule doesn't pertain if it's only for city workers of the county or sub-political division.
And let's pivot to that, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that was one of the other points that was being made, that this was only for city employees, not for the whole city. Now that you've explained why is that the case. So even though that if this passed, it can only apply to people who work for the city, is it your hope that private industry will follow the city's lead?
Well, there are a lot of companies and businesses that already have these policies in place, and they do that voluntarily. But it's been shown, what is it? The U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation actually released a 34-page report showing the business benefits of having LGBT inclusive policies. It's just been shown that the more inclusive they are with their policies, the better the pool applicant. There's more talent in it. There's less turnover. Whenever people feel protected, or people know that your company's there to protect your rights, they're more likely to want to work for you. And it's also been shown that people want to work in more inclusive places typically.
All right, we're speaking with Yesenia Hernandez Lovo, discussing the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution. If you have a question or a comment, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. We'll leave your questions or your comments on our Facebook Live feed. We got a lot of people watching, but don't have any comments or any shout-outs. So for all 26 plus of you watching, go ahead, drop some comments, drop some feedback. But we do have a Facebook shout-out. Shout-out to Andy Shatley. Appreciate you for checking in on our Facebook Live feed.
All right, so I have a question. You were talking, you just brought up employment. Okay, so because some people may feel apprehensive about working for certain companies, knowing that there are not protection measures in place, do you feel that this undercuts the individuals who would be great workers? They could really provide something valuable to that company. And we hear a lot of, this is political season, so we hear a lot of talk about economic growth and people working in unemployment numbers and all that. So, but people are not working necessarily jobs that are sustainable for them. So if there were more protection measures in place for different individuals, could that increase essentially the economic, one, will it increase the economics of our state, city, county, state? And two, we know that some people often turn to addiction or other habits that are harmful due to, I guess you say, being pushed aside and pushed away. So can we address that in the time that we
Two very big topics, economic benefits that, well, yes, if you look at studies, it's been shown over and over, like the economic growth whenever you have more inclusive policies. I was having a conversation with there's a professor from A-State whose children I was talking to, and they actively have avoided moving here because they consider Jonesboro to be, and this is just coming from to be racist and homophobic. I mean, when they saw how long it took for the MLK Boulevard to come in and change, for those changes, they're like, why are people fighting this? And then whenever they see as well that there is resistance over just, this isn't favoritism, this isn't extra rights, this is literally just protections of employment or being able to be promoted. In St. Louis, I believe there was a police officer that was able to sue the city $1.2 million because it's been shown that they were being discriminatory. Mm-hmm. And so we want those protections, not so the city can necessarily get sued or anything along those lines, but just to hold us accountable. And so while many city employers have told us that they're not discriminatory, we don't want to just hear that you're not discriminatory. We want to see it on paper that you're acknowledging, recognizing that we're a marginalized community, and that if there is bullying, if there is misgendering, if there is people being overlooked at for promotions or being fired for whoever they are, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about this for just a moment. So I know from just looking at your personal page that you say that you've kind of are the go-to person for if a person in the LGBT community feels marginalized, they will share their stories in private with you. I don't want specific examples, but have anyone ever came to you privately and said, hey, I've been discriminated against by the city? Again, don't want names, just want to know if it's happened.
Yes. And I mean, there have even in these, I have a friend that works at Arkansas State University, and in 2015 they passed this policy to include sexual orientation and gender identity for their handbook. It wasn't until this year that they felt safe enough to allow other people to know who they are. And it's not that they're flamboyant or that they're pushing their lifestyle or anything along those lines, but even merely having a picture of you with your partner at your desk can be a terrifying thing if you don't know the policies that are there to protect you at your workplace.
Alrighty. Once again, we're speaking with Yesenia Hernandez Lofo, talking about the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution. Man, these views are just really jumping up, but the comments are solid. Don't be shy, y'all. Don't be shy. We definitely want to get feedback from the listeners and from the viewers. See what do you think about this potential employment resolution? Is it something that we need? Is it something that we don't? Whether you're for it or against it, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. And you can also give us a call at 870-277-1080. All
right, so since the city council meeting, what are the next steps to furthering awareness, I guess you say, or trying to create change?
So our next step is to try to get for this resolution to get sponsored, and hopefully I don't know if we have a city council meeting on March 3rd, since that is Super Tuesday. I didn't know if that was changed or not, but hopefully our resolution will be introduced on the March 3rd meeting for the city council.
And now y'all are proposing a resolution, not an ordinance, right?
Correct.
Okay, so and the reason why I asked that, a resolution means it'll only be voted on once, where ordinances, they would do the 3 readings. So basically, if you want to speak either in favor or against it, you don't have that one opportunity. But once we know for sure about that, we'll definitely pass along that information. Oh, quick question from Andy on the Facebook Live feed. Mm-hmm. She said, it was kind of almost what Kabila asked, but I'll still say it. What's the next step with the city for this initiative?
Is that not what with the initiative, which we're gonna have what I remember is that the mayor said that we needed 2 aldermen to sponsor the resolution. Yeah,
I think probably one to move and one to second it. So Andy, hopefully that answered your question. But we're gonna get ready to go into a break. Definitely appreciate everyone who has been watching. Share this video. We definitely want to keep the community informed. And of course, you all know what time it is. Early voting is still going down. Yes, I am going to keep preaching about that. Make sure that you exercise your right to vote. Those polls are going to be open, I believe, until 5 or 6 p.m. But just make sure that you get down there. They're going to have early voting at the Craighead County Election Annex on Jefferson Street and at the Lake City Courthouse on Highway 18. Back in 5 minutes, this is Community Conversations on KLEK on 2.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What can you learn about your child from his teacher? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. After spending most of the year together, your child's teacher is bound to know a thing or two about your child. Each day, teachers get to observe firsthand things, like how your child interacts with others, how your child is challenged, and even how your child handles pressure. So learn about your child and their education by asking their teacher specific questions. First, ask in what areas does my child struggle, and in what areas is my child gifted. Then ask, how does my child treat you as a person in authority? And how does my child treat their classmates? For more questions, ask your child's teacher. Visit my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. KNOMEGA1908.com.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a non-profit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and Jonesboro Kappa League at gmail.com.
You wanted to be a teacher when you were little, but as you grew up, things changed. Teaching just didn't seem like the best option anymore, so you decided to become something else. But what would your 12-year-old self say? Interesting and innovative things are happening in teaching today, so it's time to put it back on your list. Don't try to convince yourself otherwise. You had it right the first time.
Find out how you can make more at teach.org. Make more. Teach. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman to save money.
We need a new stuntman!
You just need feedthepig.org. Don't get left behind. Get tips and tools at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Dear John, uncontrolled high blood pressure is serious, and I can quit whenever I want. But when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
For help getting your high blood pressure to a healthy range, text pressure to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
KLEK is a nonprofit community radio station and has to rely on the support of listeners like you to continue to give a voice to the community. For the cost of a meal for two, just $20 a month would go a long way to ensure you will get the music and information you need. Please take a moment and fund your support to KLEK. Every donation will help us continue this radio station, giving local people a voice on the airwaves. Our goal is to get 100 new donors. Please consider donating. No donation is too small. Learn more at klekfm.org. This portion of KLEK programming can be made possible by your business. Your support will help in educating, entertaining, and empowering the community by supporting local talent, serving the community you love, and providing information on issues you care about from a different perspective. Call 870-203-9951 or visit klekfm.org to learn how we can help connect you more with the community.
The McDaniel Law Firm, 400 South Main Street in Jonesboro, is a firm believer in justice and equality for the minority community. The McDaniel Law Firm has fought for our rights for over 44 years. The McDaniel Law Firm offers legal help for wrongful death as well as trucking and automobile accidents. Bobby and Brett McDaniel are available for a free consultation at 870-336-4747 or at www.mcdaniellawyers.com.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers, pastor of Fullness of Joy Church, 2120 Thorn Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401. Wednesday night, Word and Worship, 7 p.m. Prayer Thursday night at 7 p.m. Sunday School, 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning worship, 11 o'clock a.m. And our Sunday night live service at 7 p.m.
If you or your organization is hosting a community service event, we would like to know about it and be a part of it. KLEK will promote your event on air, online, and on social media. KLEK personalities may also attend the event and provide music and or entertainment. Certain restrictions and availability may apply. Call 870-277-1080 or email us at klek@klekfm.org. We ask that the announcement be sent at minimum 1 week in advance.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Now back on Community Conversations with our guest Yesenia Hernandez Lovo, discussing the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution. And you can give us a call at 870-277-1080 or leave your questions or comments on our Facebook live feed. And we have a Facebook shout out to Derek Lewis. Appreciate you checking in. And Shelly Russell Anderson says Yesenia is a courageous leader. We are so proud of her. All right, so Yesenia, when we were at break, you said you had something that you wanted to talk about, I believe, about the laws on the federal level.
Yeah, and I remember this time. So a lot of people will keep, I see one of the biggest arguments that I've seen is that it's under, that we already have laws protecting us, and that simply just, it isn't true, at least in the state of Arkansas. Back in 1964, we had the Civil Rights Act, which included race, color, religion, sex, and so many states have interpreted that sex includes gender identity, sexual orientation. While the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has under regulation that sexual orientation and gender identity is included under Title VII, which is sex. That it is under regulation. Unfortunately, it's not recognized by everybody. So the Department of Justice back in 2014 recognized that there is gender identity biases and that is protected classification. But in 2017, they went back and said it was never interpreted to include that. So we've had a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to the federal courts. When it comes to gender identity, the courts are split. When it comes to sexual orientation, the courts are split on whether they're in favor or not of it being a protected classification. In the summer of this year, the Supreme Court is going to come to a decision to decide whether or not Title VII under sex includes sexual orientation and gender identity.
Let's pause there for a moment. What would happen if the court ruled against that, and which is a possibility considering the conservative lean of the court? And I know that's been a concern for marginalized groups across the spectrum for civil rights, abortion rights, different things that you could see roll back depending on how this court rules. So what would happen if the result is not what you would like?
Well, for the state of Arkansas, for us, nothing, because we never had rights to begin with. And so, I mean, that's where my main focus has been, is what it would do here. For here, it would, if it was a protected class, then, I mean, it is to my understanding that would include everyone. That's not just inclusive of city workers. That would be also businesses would have to have anti-discrimination protections against LGBT people. But I could be wrong on that, so I stand corrected if anyone has any outside information besides that.
Okay. As you were talking, I was thinking, okay, we know that not just with this particular issue, but many issues, sometimes a resolution, law, something gets passed, but then there are always those in place that still are not in agreement, or they don't adhere to the law. They try to find a way to still get around it and not honor. What's the word I'm looking for? Honor the laws. The only thing I'm
follow the law, basically.
Enforce. Okay. So have you all discussed, your group discussed, okay, if this passes, what measures would be in place? What other protection measures would be in place in case someone, just say a company decides to find some loophole? Because we know Arkansas is what you call at will. They can basically fire you. I won't say discriminate. They can fire you at will.
They can fire you and they don't have to give you a reason why.
Yeah.
So, have you considered or discussed, okay, what other protection measures need to be in place to make sure that these things are enforced?
Well, we already know that Arkansas law to protect workers is definitely not up there. They're pretty low on here. The thing is that we're trying to bring awareness to is that when people keep telling me there's no point to doing this resolution because Arkansas is already an at-will state. Well, if you already know how horrible the law is for anybody that identifies as cisgendered or heterosexual, the LGBT rights are even lower than that. And so we just want to be up to par with everybody else when it comes to protections. Okay. But we do recognize that Arkansas being an at-will state, that anyone can get fired for any particular reasons. But whenever companies have policies in place, it's a little bit more difficult too.
Now, that might be something we need to start talking to our state representative senators about doing away with, or why we even have an at-will, why that's even a thing in Arkansas. We might start there too.
It's on my list. I have a list of okay, this probably would be better for certain people. We need to look at protecting our most vulnerable in society. So
okay. And kind of going back to a question I asked earlier, I don't think we had enough time to really address it when I asked about the economic aspect. And then going into the mental health aspect. And when some people hear mental health, they automatically think crazy or just the most distraught people. Anyone could be affected with any mental health issue at any point in their life. We don't know what that trigger may be. And for those that are pushed aside, marginalized, denied certain rights, denied employment, things of that nature, it can push them to a point to, okay, now they're in an unhealthy space in their life. So let's talk about that issue, or what discussions have been had along those lines.
So one of the reasons that I believe in policy changes is because it also changes the viewpoints that people have on certain groups. If you look at the civil rights movement during the 60s, Martin Luther King wasn't necessarily the most popular person back then. The approval rate has changed dramatically in the past several decades. After the Marriage Equality Act was passed in 2015, we've seen that the approval rate for same-sex marriage has increased dramatically since 2015, since before that law was passed. So the more policy can make a change in the way society views things. It wasn't until 1967 that black and white people could legally marry in all 50 states. And while it still is can be stigmatized, or people can still see it and think that it looks strange to see a white person and a black person together, it's taken us decades after certain policies or laws have been changed for us to normalize it and to see that it is a completely normal thing. And that's the kind of changes that I want to also happen within the LGBT community. I don't know if you got if you were kept up with the news whenever the trans author came to the library, and a lot of the schools backed out and cited that they were afraid for the safety of their students, which they never clarified what exactly they were scared about. But what happens is that there are children that see how adults react to situations, and whenever you tell children you're not allowed to go to this event because it's dangerous.
Well, the criticism from that was, from just my observations, were that, again, kind of go back to something I mentioned earlier, they felt that this was indoctrination or an agenda being forced down their throats. I think it may be a case of, since it's something that people don't know or not familiar about, they may not understand. And then I once saw a comment in regards to that where a person react, well, if these kids, they see this, then it forces a conversation in the home that those parents may not necessarily want to have. I'm like, well, what is a trans person? Why are they trans? And, some may not be ready for that conversation.
I mean, we may not be ready for certain conversations, but the fact of the matter is that, people have asked, how do I explain that your uncle, that Uncle Teddy has a husband, and you just explain it, it's two people that are in love. And I think sometimes we complicate things, but that's my personal opinion. But the fact of the matter is that gay people exist, trans people exist, and trying to protect our protect our children from seeing them, to me, is, I've seen a lot of discrimination for being a brown person a lot of my life, and so I've been in situations where people didn't know who I was, so they just automatically assumed that I was uneducated. Mm-hmm. They've just, whenever I speak, they're like, you speak like a white girl. And so
I've heard that one too. So, well, not girl,
so,
guy.
So whenever there are a lot of discrimination things that I've noticed, not only in my life as a person of color, but my life as a queer person. And so what I've noticed more working with groups that are marginalized is that we all have our things that we're scared of, that we've been faced with discrimination, that other groups may just not realize it. And so we're all united in that way, that they're, not, that we're marginalized. Back to the economic point, though, is that, so whenever we pass policy like this, we're more inclusive. I honestly believe that the health of people can improve dramatically just knowing that they're accepted in the society that they live in. I have friends that have trauma here in Jonesboro from the mom and pop place owners from a restaurant, where the day that the owners found out that they were gay, they were fired. And so things like this do happen, and it would be naive for us to think that it doesn't happen at the government level here in Jonesboro, in our city, with our city workers.
Let's go to the Facebook Live comments. LC Rappert says, Yesenia is wonderful. I'm so proud of her and the community for doing what they can to make NEA a more equitable, accepting, and loving place to live and raise a family. My question: what was the reasoning of Mayor Perrin for not putting it before the council? Have any council members indicated they'd be willing to sponsor the resolution? If not, how can we start putting pressure on the mayor and city council to get the resolution put on the council agenda for discussion and voting?
So I am currently playing phone tag with about 3 different council people, and Ryan Carter, who has also been an integral part. He's the one that actually approached me about doing this again, this turnaround. He's been emailing our city council people. We're pretty confident that we will have sponsorship from a council person. This is just looking at how they've been voting for the past couple of years, conversations that I've had with them. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I do believe that we do have council people that are progressive enough to believe in equal rights.
Okay, and
as for the mayor, I can't. We were just informed during the meeting that we had apparently not turned in the resolution the correct way. But again, I reiterate that the morning that we turned it in, we even visited the city clerk to ensure that everything we were doing was correct. So we were just going off of what the city clerk's office told us was the correct path to take to turn in the resolution.
Sterling Dunham says, perhaps this has been discussed earlier as I am late to the broadcast, but what are some ways that people in the community may show their support or participate in the movement for the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution?
So there have been talks. Somebody asked me about doing a petition to have like signatures of different people that support this resolution. I'm definitely all for that, but as many of you know, I'm involved with a lot of work around the city. So if someone else can take that up, I'm all for it. This past last weekend, we had a Fair Employment Resolution rally at the courthouse, and we had about 60 people come out, so we were pretty excited with that. On top of that, we have several organizations that support this cause. The Craighead County Democratic Committee, they're supportive of this resolution. The Craighead County NAACP is also supportive of this, and I want to point out with the NAACP, there's this. They're within the LGBT community. We obviously, in any group, there's more marginalizations within your own groups, and there's this misconception that Black and brown people don't like LGBT people, but obviously that's not true, maybe identifying as part of the community. And so I think it's really important to break those barriers that we create ourselves. And so the NAACP supporting this resolution, just as Dr. King's wife was supportive of LGBT rights, and she believed Dr. King would have also been, I just think it's important for all of us to note that together we are stronger, that we are united more so than we think we are. But Arkansas State University has about 4 different organizations that are part of this. Northeast Arkansas Pride. We have over half a dozen pastors from different churches that are supportive of this, and different business owners. So we have a meeting scheduled with the mayor next Thursday, where community leaders, the Human Rights Campaign state director is going to come all the way from Little Rock to support us during that meeting. So we're pretty excited.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about the political engagement aspect of it. Does the LGBT organizations around Craighead County have any plans to organize, to invite candidates to come on to let those candidates know about the issues that those communities care about?
So I actually was just approached by someone that's running for office about speaking to the community. Our next meeting is until March 3rd. Okay. So we're looking at possibly if anybody running for office would like to speak, I'm going to get with my executive board to see if maybe doing like a Facebook live feed from our page. That way people within the community can ask questions. But I'll get back to the board on that, guys. So.
All right, so stay tuned on that. Quabila?
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking, I know that I'm just going to say America, the world has too many other problems, but just in America, we should know what we've been through as a people, no matter what race, gender, religion you're in. Like I was having this conversation yesterday with the ladies from the museum about the exhibit that's there concerning the civil rights movement and a lot of the horrendous things that happen, and we have to start having conversations. No matter how you feel about certain issues, we have to start having conversations. And we have to reflect on what we've personally been through, or maybe someone in our family has been through. Again, race, religion, gender, whatever. Again,
we've been through it all.
Yeah, so it's like, why wouldn't you want certain protection measures in place? Because we never know how someone in our family or our social group will be affected by either one, not having these measures in place, or be treated. All I'm trying to say is we need to be adults. If we say we're adults,
we focus too much on what divides us as opposed to what unites us.
Yes. So So anyway, again, you can feel however you want to feel about the matter. It's a matter of. I'm going to soapbox, so I'm going to leave that alone.
Well, you can also look back to the poem, and I'm paraphrasing it, but it was where it said, at first they came for this group, and I didn't speak up, and then they came for this group, and then I didn't speak up. Finally, at the end of the poem, it says, when there was no one left, they came for me, and there was no one left to speak up for me.
Mm-hmm. Something that I've done with a lot of my training is that we have to recognize the fight that Black people and LGBT people in particularly have had to fight in this nation. And I was so unaware and I was so ignorant about really just the marginalization of certain groups. And so with like NEA Pride, one of the things that we definitely talk about, that we're definitely part of our mission, is to empower the voices of Black and trans people, because those are among those that are most marginalized within our community. But then if I look at other communities, it's just depressing to see how consistent certain groups are at the bottom of society. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to help empower and lift up those voices, because to me those are the strongest voices in society, because they're the ones that have had to withstand the most.
Mm-hmm. And we could have this conversation all day long, but I would just love to see some things change. Again, no matter how you feel about it, it's a matter of human rights. It's a matter of human rights.
a lot of the fear that I see is that having this protection will somehow force people to be exposed to different belief systems, but like religion is one of those protected classes, and we don't argue against it, because we know that it's important for people to be able to be and believe who they want to believe without being forced from their employers, anything else. And so, I mean, that's just kind of what we're wanting to do. We're just wanting to be able to exist. And I stated this in an interview last week. The motto of Jonesboro is people, pride, progress. And if we're going to have any progress in this city, we need to put people first, just like we do in our motto. And so I just cannot reiterate the importance. If this was something that wasn't necessary, trust me, I would probably be at home right now taking a nap. But I truly believe that this isn't just going to be adding us to a protected classification. Isn't just a small win for here in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The community has felt neglected long enough. It wasn't until last year that we were able to have Pride Fest in the middle of the city. Years ago, I know that many of the previous organizers had a lot of problems, and I know that comes with a lot of the stigma. And so we're just trying to chip away that stigma, and we just want to show y'all that we're human.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about, showing love for your fellow human, for everyone that is out there in the world today. We're speaking with Yesenia Hernandez Lovo, talking about the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution. Still taking your questions and your comments on our Facebook Live feed, or you can give us a call at 870-277-1080. So getting ready to go into our next break, but don't go anywhere. Community Conversations will return on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Here are signs that you are suffering from debt overload. You're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, using credit cards to pay off other credit card bills and debts. You regularly skip making payments because you can't afford to. You're constantly switching cards, chasing lower interest rates on new cards. Bills, debt, and spending are a regular source of conflict and arguments in your relationships. You use credit cards to make everyday purchases, such as coffee or lunch or gas. If more than two of these signs apply to you, You need credit counseling now. Contact the National Foundation for Credit Counseling at nfcc.org to find a counselor in your area. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters at aurn.com.
Made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo, and I love the fact that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else: childhood hunger. 15 million children struggle with hunger in America. However, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is able to help provide over 3 billion meals to children and families in need all across the country. Join me in the fight against hunger at feedingamerica.org. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
KLEK thanks Charles and Candace Mabry and the staff of Mabry Smokehouse for their support of KLEK and dedication to the Jonesboro community. Mabry's offers Texas-style barbecue, beef brisket, pulled pork, ribs, rib tips, chicken wings, smoked sausage, barbecue fries and nachos, sides, and desserts. Located 1504 Red Wolf Boulevard, Jonesboro. Open 11 to 8 Tuesday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday. More info, Mabry Smokehouse on Facebook.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com. Meineke of Jonesboro is now Starks Auto Service, a full-service auto repair and vehicle maintenance center, offering engine and transmission repair, brake service, tires, oil changes, and more, performed by ASE certified mechanics. Starks Auto Service, 2813 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, 870-204-7112. Starks Auto Service, Jonesboro.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month.
Shout out to Royal Priesthood International Ministries, 5193 Highway 1 South, Jonesboro, under the leadership of Bishop Raymond Williams, Prophetess Teresa Lee Williams, and Pastor Joe Thompson. Bible study Sundays, 9:30 a.m., worship 11 o'clock a.m. They also offer a prison ministry.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda, that's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations with our guest Yesenia Hernandez Lovo, discussing the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution. And we got some comments on our live feed. And let's see, Derek Coleman says, good morning. I support the community. This community has not been in any discussion. Candidates on both sides. Maybe we need to discuss this issue to candidates. And thank you, I gave time. LOL. All right, so, Wabila?
Okay. Are there any other issues that we haven't brought up that you would like to, or points that you would like to either reiterate or just make sure we get across so the people know exactly what this resolution is all about?
So this is the Jonesboro Fair Employment Resolution. We're trying to add gender identity, sexual discrimination, and veteran status to the protected classifications against discrimination. Someone earlier had asked what are things that we can do with civic engagement. You can go onto you can reach out to me because I have all the information for other city council people, but you can go on the Jonesboro website and you can get the contact information, email, phone number, like mailing address, and send contact your city council people and let them know whether you support this resolution or not. Hopefully you support civil rights. So, so you can get engaged that way, and you can also go to city council meetings. If everything goes according to plan and schedule, we will make a presence at the first and third, the first and second city council meeting for the month of March.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so
got a comment from Sean Only, who says that poem is perfect, Leganzi, and one that should be shared on your Facebook page. Humanity and civility first and always. I applaud Yesenia for her commitment to stand up for others. Discrimination is wrong, period. Well, Sean, I'll try to see if I can Google that right quick and post it in the comments.
Okay. It is one of my favorite quotes as well, though. Actually, I read it. I went to the Holocaust Memorial, I think in Boston, a couple of years ago, and I had that same poem, and it was just really impactful because they had millions of names of not names, actually numbers, the concentration numbers written from the people from the concentration camps. So you stood there and you got to see all these numbers, and it was just really impactful, especially with that poem being there.
Okay. All right, so what do you feel that this would do? Just say the resolution does get passed. What do you feel this would do for the younger generation that are still struggling with their identity, and if they know that there's some protection measure in place for them?
Hope. I mean, that's just the, whenever you feel like you're on the outside and then you see just a glimmer of hope of people that look like you, that sound like you, that believe what you do, whenever you feel like you're kind of ostracized from society, can be really impactful. I know that for a lot of people, having our presence for the Christmas parade was something that they saw as inappropriate, whenever us being part of the Christmas parade was us just being a part of the Jonesboro community, existing. And I just know of so many children that seeing us is impactful, and I've been told from educators and healthcare professionals that the work that we're doing with NEA Pride for visibility and trying to fight for everyone in general has been really impactful for the mental health of a lot of the children and just community, part of the LGBT community.
All right, I found the whole poem. If you want me to, I can read it.
Yeah.
First they came for the communist, and then I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak up for me. Minute and 36 seconds. Any shout outs? Let's do some shout outs.
You see, oh, me?
Yes.
Just kidding. I was like, who are we shouting out to?
Whoever you want to.
I want to shout out to my mom, the most beautiful, perfect being in the world. Michelle Anderson for always being supportive. my wonderful boyfriend, Jacob Lewis, he goes to every single one of these things. I would not be able to do all this community work without him. So, yeah, just everyone from the community. This has been, I seriously question whether or not I want to stay in Jonesboro, but coming together as a community and seeing that there are other people that are like-minded, that are here to fight against discrimination and want to form a community. It's been a wonderful past last year. So I'm just really excited to be part of this community.
All right, a couple final comments. Sterling Denham says, when a generation sees progress towards something they care about from a previous generation, it empowers them and they feel more open to be who they are and feel more supported as they are others to protect it from attack. And Derek Coleman says that is correct, Legacy. Well, Yesenia, I want to definitely thank you for stopping by the studio today. Thank you for all the work that you do in the community. Thank you for each and every one of you that tuned in to Community Conversations. I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here. You guys have a great and blessed day. You're listening to Community Conversations, and this is Kate, LEK, on 2.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Broadcasting from the First National Bank